This is Doug Phillips, age 21. He has killed a woman in an auto accident. Before he killed, Doug Phillips had been found guilty of reckless driving, speeding, and driving on the wrong side of the road. Charles McLam, 39, 16 speeding convictions. Found guilty 4 times of driving after his license was suspended or revoked, and once of reckless driving, running a stop sign, and failure to yield the right-of-way. His record shows 3 accidents. This is Ronald Seaman, age 21. He has killed 3 people. Before the accident, he was convicted 3 times of speeding and once of running a red light. Murray Skeen, 19, convicted of involuntary manslaughter and prearranged racing.
Do
you think they do any good?
I think it helps, yes.
This is Garland Williams, 22, convicted of manslaughter and reckless driving. 1 accident.
I wouldn't get on it, to try to get away from wherever it was.
Yeah. My name is Chris Conley, or Norman Harrington of Peyton Place. In real life, I've had 4 speeding tickets, 1 for failing to yield the right-of-way, and 1 for passing a no-passing zone. Like these other drivers, I have come here to discuss why we kill. How about you?
I've had so many offenses I can't count them. I've had not had any in the last couple of years, but I was a habitual violator,
right,
and had my license revoked. I went without them for 5 years. And
did you still drive during that time?
Oh yes, I got called numerous times driving without. It cost a fortune to get out of that.
You'd pay off.
That's right. And I wrecked 5 or 6 cars. I total lost at least 4. I rolled 1 new car. I had it a week, and I rolled it doing 105 miles an hour.
Doug, what about you?
My wreck was pretty bad. I can't remember that, because it made me lose it.
You can't remember it at all?
No, it gave me a slight concussion.
Right.
I didn't even know nothing about the wreck till got out of the hospital. Well, I know about the wreck, but I didn't know it killed a woman until I got out of the hospital.
Were you speeding, though?
I don't know. See, that's what's got me puzzled.
That's I'm the same way. I don't know whether I was speeding or not either when I had mine. The muffler was busted, speedometer was broken. I believe I was about half asleep.
Yeah. Had you had anything to drink or anything before?
Well, I had drunk 3 beers all night, and in 6 hours, I don't believe 3 beers would affect me that much.
Well, some people a little different on drinking now.
Well, a guy can drink 5 or 6 and still be able to drive.
Yeah, but some people can drink 1 and they'd knock them plumb out of their head.
I don't think the amount of whiskey makes you drunk. It depends on your system and your mental attitude of everything else.
Another thing's the way you drink it. Now, if you're up moving around, it's not going to affect you near as much. Sitting in a car drinking, it's worse on you.
That's right.
It'll get you a lot quicker.
Now, I've drank in a period of maybe 6 or 8 hours, drank a half a gallon of whiskey, and then still drive a car. And at other times, I'd drink 2 drinks and I just couldn't walk, couldn't talk.
Well, was you moving around at the time? Or?
I never moved too much when I was drinking. Another thing, too, if you drink I could drink a couple of drinks. If I would say I would be sober, I would take and pass a highway patrolman and I'd wave at him. I wouldn't think anything was wrong. But if I had a couple of drinks, I figured he's going to be after me, and I'd get around the corner and around the curve from him, and I'd let it go. And a couple of times I was caught. I was caught one time doing 105 miles an hour through Scotland Neck, right through the middle of town. Of course, he chased me 4 more miles before he finally caught me and put me in jail.
But do you think, like, if you put a highway patrol car just empty with nobody in it, and you're driving along, and you saw this highway patrol car, that would slow you down and keep you slowed down?
No, I definitely don't. He's the common enemy. That is just like the Gestapo to me. When I automatically go to the speed limit, and just as soon as I'm out of his sight, I feel like I'm getting away with something if I break the speed limit a few miles.
Most of the people, they work around in this area, they work in a mill,
or someplace like that, they've got somebody telling them what to do all the time.
Right.
But once they get behind the wheel of a car, they're their own boss.
Right.
They got the power of life and death in their own hands.
They feel like that they're their own boss. But if you see that cop sitting over on the side of the road, you say, there's somebody trying to boss me. He'll try to boss me. And you've got that build-up resentment in you. The Gestapo again. You hate him because you've just left the boss in the mill. That's give you a hard time. You're out on your own. And you see another boss out there. I can't even drive my own car on my own highway that I pay taxes to build because that thing sitting over there is going to give me a ticket or try to. I'll outsmart him, I'll slow up, and I'll give it hell.
Do you feel that, you know, policemen are kind of, like if you have a beat-up car, do you think they're prejudiced? Do you know what I mean?
I think they're more prejudiced if you're driving a Cadillac.
Well, yeah, well, you know, like, I had a Corvette, and I got tickets like wildfire. I mean, I couldn't believe how many tickets I got. And I said to the cop one day, I said, hey, man, what's with you guys? Are you guys, you know, looking for hot rodders or what? Or are you just hot on sports cars?
I think if I was a patrolman or a policeman, I would watch the faster cars, the stronger engines in the cars, because most of the time the guys that buys these kind of cars are all going to use them.
Right. Now, like in a small town, do you feel that when there's nothing to do,
Well, that's
what do you do?
That's another problem that I got. There's not but one place open in town, and for every girl that goes there, there's about 20 boys. So when I go there, more than likely, when I did go there, first thing I think about is getting there with a bunch of boys and start drinking.
Yeah.
Just carry on with money ourselves because there wasn't much else to do.
Right.
Well, now, around there,
And
Hometown.
sometimes we'd get up, about 5 or 6 of us, and we'd get about half drunk, and we'd take off and go 30, 40 miles, just riding. Just looking for something.
Yeah, looking for something to do.
Mm-hmm.
Where I live, everybody would meet at one service station. And you get 5 or 6 boys there, eventually there's going to be some kind of drag racing or going somewhere. And that's all they were to do.
Where I live, there's a little store. Well, as long as I can remember, there's been racing down there.
No drag strip.
No drag strip anywhere around. And that part is about, is one in Greensboro, which is about 30 miles away. And I can remember when I was just small, say 10, 12 years old, there'd be cars lined up down at this store, and they would race 2 by 2 by our house. I'd stay awake at night and then sit up and watch them. And they would come from High Point down and turn around in the store yard and just line up 2 by 2. And maybe it'd be 10 or 12 cars, and it'd be 6 teams just racing one right after the other, and then they'd go up, turn around, and come back. More than likely, if I'd have never lived at this place where I'm at, the chances are maybe I'd have never raced. But see, it was just always that thing down there that everybody about that was young raced. See, I'd seen that thing ever since I was just small. Seen them race, and they'd come from High Point and Asheboro and Thomasville and Lexington. They would come from 4 or 5 towns all the way around there and come up there and race. And it was just something that all the guys did. I had my accident. We was there at the store that night, and
Was it on a Friday or?
it was on a Saturday night, late Sunday morning when I had the wreck. Went over there and we raced twice, and then I had this wreck, and the boy right with me was killed.
And you were saying that all the boys around where you live, race. Do you know why?
They did race. They've all about quit it now since I've had my wreck. But why? I don't know. It's where I live, about 14 miles from High Point. It's out in the country, and I don't know. It's just been passed down. These guys down there from 50 years old, I say 40 years old down that remembers whenever they raced when they was boys at the same place. And why? I don't know. It's just, I guess maybe it just started out there was nothing to do. And maybe some of the guys that raced down there when I did was like me. They saw it whenever they was small, and it was just kind of handed down to the younger boys, and we just raced.
How many have killed because of, driving under the influence, you know, being drunk?
I don't know whether it was the beer that done it or not. Could have been.
Well, in my case, I'm not sure, but I don't think it was the liquor because, well, I'd been up for 2 days without any sleep because I was running a pool room at night. It was outside the city limits.
Yeah.
And I was going to stay up and go see the race at Charlotte, the World 600. So I went to Jones's restaurant and I had 2 drinks about 8 o'clock. And then I went to a dance. So I come back to Jones's and we were planning to go to a race. And I decided I just had to go home and go to bed because I wouldn't be able to stay up and go to the race. So a half a mile from home, I had my wreck. And I don't know whether my system was too weak and the liquor had anything to do with it or not.
Being tired.
Being tired, and I did have the 2 drinks.
Yeah. What happened in your accident?
Well, I was at Jones's restaurant about 11:30 at night. This is what they tell me because I don't remember anything about an hour before that.
Oh, that's where you had the...
And we went to a dance, and the boy said I didn't talk to him or anything. I just left, went out the door, and was going home. It's about 5 miles from where I live.
Yeah.
And about a half mile from where I live, there's a curve. Instead of going around the curve, I went straight and hit another car.
Do you think, was it head-on or...?
It was practically head-on. It was driver's side to driver's side.
Well, then do you think, you know, it was being tired, you fell asleep?
Yes.
How many were killed?
There were 3 people killed, all in another car. And the way I feel about it, before I left home that night, I knew that I didn't have enough. Well, to start off with, I wasn't planning on driving my car the way it was. But we ended up, I did drive my car. But I shouldn't have. I knew that I hadn't had any sleep, but I felt good at the time.
Right.
And I didn't know that it was going to hit me. I needed to, you know, want to sleep all at one time. So there I was. I guess my mind just told me to go home. I didn't make it.
Do you think that, how many tickets have you had prior to that?
I think 3 or 4.
For speeding or?
Well, running a stop sign. I stopped for it. Well, it was a stoplight. I stopped for it, and I was mad. And I went on, and I got a ticket for that, and 2 speeding, 145 and a 35, and 65 and a 55.
Do you think they would have jerked your license before this?
Do. I think if they would have took my license about a year then, it would have slowed me down, and I would know what I know now before the wreck happened.
Does being mad cause accidents?
That's the main cause, too, besides drinking. Of course, the drinking will get you mad. If you drink, and you get mad easier, I think.
Right.
And
like if some old lady pulls out in front of you,
that's right. You get behind an old lady or an old man, and you cuss, and you want to get ahead, and you pull out. I've done that. I've passed them on the wrong side of the road a lot of time. I've even gone up behind them and put my bumper on theirs and pick up speed and give them a push and tap them with the
why?
back of the
Because
car.
you were mad?
Because it made me mad. The old people on the road, or some women drivers, especially women. It's a frame of mind, I think. And another thing, too, most of the time I was drinking, it bothered me in anything. And especially if I had had a little aggravation at home and gone out for a ride.
Right, then if you know, hostile
and take a couple of drinks, and then the least little thing happened, I'd actually want to run into somebody.
Yeah.
And I have tapped the back of cars and get my speed equal to theirs, and then push down on the accelerator and give them a ride. Of course.
You didn't think, though, that you could have an accident, did you?
Well, it never occurred to me one way or the other. I figured I was the most skillful driver in the world.
In my case, I thought I could drive. I thought I could handle a car real good. Probably I could at the speed limit. But when you get over the speed limit, you're not driving a car, you're aiming it.
How many of you do have driving licenses now?
I don't.
I don't either.
There's only 2 out of 6 that has driving license.
And it is a problem.
And I went to driver's education and got my license back after being 5 years without them. And on the way from driver's education, I got 2 tickets coming back. Of course, it was late at night, and I came back and I didn't stop at a stop sign, and I was going about 7 miles over the speed limit first time, and then I didn't stop at a stop sign.
How fast was that?
I was 45 in a 35 mile zone. The only thing that I remember about getting my license back is when I went to this driver's education school, you have to have a change of attitude. You just can't say my attitude's changed, or, but you actually really have to have it. And I remember when I was in this school, my attitude really did change.
Well, do you think they should have a refresher then, like every 6 months, where you go in again and?
That might be a good idea. I think the main thing is I gained a little respect for the highway patrol at the school because they were all nice fellas. They were real good group of guys. But then I got involved in a little thing. I was actually speeding. I was going about 10 miles over the limit. And I spotted the highway patrolman 3 cars back. And I knew he couldn't get me and clocked me for speeding. And so I slowed up. And when he stopped me, I gave him the argument about, take me to court, I don't care. Nobody's going to convict me, no jury, with you 2 cars in between you and me, and you with no radar. And so he changed it and said I passed on the wrong side of the yellow line.
But
Which I didn't do.
He did get you, though. He wanted to get you for something.
That's
Is
right,
that what you
since
feel?
he knew that I was speeding.
Yeah.
And he couldn't get me for that. And then I lost all respect for the highway patrol.
Did anybody ever have a feeling of hate, for patrolmen or anything?
I've been driving along, and some old man or old woman pull out in front of me, and they poke along up a hill. You say, well, darn it, something, you always cuss them a little.
Right.
And you'll want to get around them. You say, well, they slowing me down. They'll just poke along, just driving too slow. And I'll hate that. I mean...
Yeah, well, all right, how do you think, out of, our own experiences, do you think we could prevent fatal accidents?
Well, I don't know how mine happened, so I can't...
But you kind of have an idea right before, don't you?
Well, all I know is I was at a dance, and I don't even remember leaving the dance.
Do you think you were drinking?
I know I wasn't drinking.
Was it an I don't give a darn attitude, or?
I don't know.
Talking about fatal accidents, if you look at a truck driver and take a little the courtesy from him.
Yeah.
Like if you're following a truck driver and you're on a hill or something, or you can't see, and he can see that the road is clear in front of you, he's going to give you a signal to come around. If some of that would just rub off on the other people,
like
and a lot more courtesy on the highway, it'd be that would slow everybody down, I believe.
Well, yeah. How do you get people to think? Be more careful instead of careless. How do you think you could,
Well, I ain't one way to make them think, and that's to lose them, and then they'll think about getting them back.
So in other words, you have to cause accidents in order to...
Well, not necessarily, but you got to come close before you even think about it. I mean, a man get out here and he'll drive and say, well, it ain't going to happen to me.
That's it.
After it one time happens, though, he knows that it can happen.
I believe I got a different problem from the rest of them. I've always had an inferiority complex. And when I get up with a bunch of boys, I try to be just as rough as they are, or do I feel like I'm not in place? In other words, I'm self-conscious of everything I do. Sitting here, I'm self-conscious.
You're self-conscious, but why? I mean, do you know why?
No. I've just always been that way all my life.
Who are you?
I'm self-conscious all the time. Driving and know others. It doesn't make any difference.
Did you ever drive 100 miles an hour on a car?
Yeah.
Did it give you a good feeling, or were you scared?
Well, when I get up to 100, I get scared. About 80, I don't mind it.
At 80, do you have a good feeling?
Right.
Feel like you're maybe a little high or intoxicated? If you...
Well, you could say it that way. Speed in itself, I like to get up and get in a car with a boy that's rough driving, for him to spin around and stuff like that. Just like my brother. My brother's a pretty good driver.
Now,
and he can take a car and can spin it around.
Okay.
He can handle it. I don't mind getting a car with him.
Now, if he was to have a wreck, how safe would you feel with him then?
I don't know.
But how can you, stop wrecks? I mean, do you have any idea at all?
Well, it's a funny thing. In my case, I was sitting at the store before I had this wreck, and we knew we was going to go race. And there's this boy that argued about riding with me in the car. The boy that was killed and this other boy was arguing about who was going to ride with me. And the boy that lost the argument, you say, he watched the race. He was watching it, and he was there whenever I had the wreck. And after this happened, and say 2 or 3 months afterwards, he bought him a police interceptor car. And I saw him racing with it. And I thought, well, how can you get out here and race when you see that you come just within a little bit of being the one that was in the car with me and got killed? And he was there, you see. But he couldn't see that. But when people can't see that what they're getting into, well, there's not a chance then. There's no way they just got to realize and see what could happen. Until they do, there's no way that they can.
Did you, you had a fatal accident in this prearranged racing?
Yes.
Did you feel, how did you feel? I've never had one, as a reason, for my own curiosity. How did you, I mean, just for my curiosity.
Well, the boy that was riding with me, he was a friend. I went to school with him all through school, you might say. In grammar grade, just 1 year, he moved to another school and he came back, and I went to school with him all in high school, and me and him was real close friends. And it really hurt a lot that he was killed, and me driving the car that he was killed in. A lot of nights I can't sleep. I think about it. It's kind of like you say. It's hard to imagine that I was driving the car when he was killed, but it's a fact I was. But like you said too, a lot of it was knocked out of my mind. I don't remember a whole lot of it, but I know that he was in the car with me, and it just hurts.
You didn't see him after he was dead?
I got out of the car. I remember opening the door, getting out of the car, and I called him, and I found him, and he was breathing then, and just real faint, and I remember that. And I just heard him breathing, and I bent down, but he was, I could just tell he was breathing. I ran to the road, and the guys that was down at this other road watching the race, they'd seen the headlights go over in there, and they came down, and I flagged them down, and that's all I remember until I was in the hospital.
Well, after my wreck, after I got out of the hospital, well, I drove for 6 months before I was tried. And I drove real sensible, never speeding or anything like that, because I knew what I'd done.
How do you think you could, you can't really tell people, because just like you say, you never think it's going to happen to you.
That's
right. Why do you think people don't listen?
For the thing that they think it couldn't happen to me. I think that's the main thing that people think that, well, it just can't happen to me.
Another reason, reason they might not listen, it goes back to this, when you get behind the wheel of a car, you're your own boss business. When you're behind the wheel of your own car, you're your own boss, you do what you want to do. That's another reason that it probably wouldn't sink into them.
These kind of guys, they're just the ones that I think that are causing a lot of the accidents.
Were you like that?
Yes, I was. I had people talk to me and tell me about racing, but no, I didn't listen to them. I thought I knew. I thought I could drive. I thought I could handle a car real well, and probably, like I said, at a reasonable speed, I was probably a pretty fair driver. But out of the speed limit, you're not.
What about you? Do you know?
Well, I'd always had hate in me, and speed. I felt bigger. I felt, I've always, like he said a while ago, I don't feel at ease in certain surroundings, but I feel completely at home behind the steering wheel of a car. But I always had a resentment toward, especially police. I saw too many crooked ones. I paid off too many, and I would figure I had to pay that dirty so-and-so and hard-earned money that I had to to get the hard way, and he's getting it easy. I wish I had his racket and things like that. I always like the common enemy is the patrolman. I don't see that patrolman as what he is. I see him as that one that told the lie on me in court.
But how do you feel that you could make an impression in people's minds that this has happened, you know, like you all said, this has happened to me, an accident, I've killed someone. How do you think you can do that?
I've never killed anyone in a car. I don't know. I don't know how I would feel. If that's why I asked those questions is to find out how you would feel if you did that.
But how can you make them feel that, I mean, other people that will probably, you know, to stop the accidents, to slow it down a little bit?
Just more severe punishment for the habitual bad driver.
What do you think, Doug?
That's the only way I mean, you can't hardly think of it no other way, because you ain't gonna get out here and tell a man.
Because they won't believe you.
Hey, was people told me, that'd go through my head just like water wheel through a pipe. My buddy had a wreck. It was maybe a year before I had mine, and he killed 2 people. Well, I wasn't over a mile and a half from my house. Well, it bothered me for a little while, not no long time, 2 or 3 weeks. But then it got over.
Well, you take me. I've seen dogs and stuff get killed, and I just about cried over it. I've seen people that I know that were drunks and stuff that didn't care a bit about their life, and I felt like I thought to help them some way or another. But I can also read in the newspaper about people getting killed in wrecks and stuff, and it's just one of those things.